Hello. So these videos moving forward, as the three of you might have guessed, are going to be a little more sporadic, more of a devlog type deal. The video I'll upload previous to this one will end with me being very confused and saying, "Oh, I'll be right back," and then I do not come back. I spent about 2 weeks not working on this and then coming back and working on it quite a bit. So I want this to be more of a catch up type video um, where I just kind of go through what I've implemented so far. So let's see. We have OBS up. We don't need OBS up. I'm using Claude a little bit. Um, Mostly just to kind of crash course a couple things, or really not crash course. As you can see, I do have actual documentation up for, in this case, Express. But sometimes it's just nice to get clarifying, to be able to ask clarifying questions and to kind of narrow in on certain things, and somewhat helpful. No vibe coding though. I do not copy paste code. I write it. So, although I have only asked it a couple questions, specifically regarding a middleware for Express. So, okay, let's hop into it. Hopefully my shortcuts are working. So I'm working off a couple different screens here. You'll see me look around. Okay, so actually, before we dive into the code, I know I'm a little unorganized here. Um, let me show you the actual website. So there's not much, obviously, in the way of CSS. I'll get to CSS later. I'm worrying more about functionality at this point. So this images button, I'm imagining kind of like a tab like header. So I'm building this site to be probably more of a single page app, where I just kind of swap elements out as needed, kind of in like almost an infantile amateurish version of React's re-rendering. I'm not married to that idea, but that is kind of how I'm implementing it at this point. So at the top of this page, we will have our header, and in that header, we will have tabs for images, videos, and audio at the minimum, with maybe a home page that kind of mixes the different media formats. So currently, I just have a button that says images, which takes us to the images page, which really is a re-render of what we have right here. So I have no images actually uploaded to the server at this point, so nothing is displaying. But let's go ahead and upload this. Instant re-render, which is nice. Something to note is that, let me maybe zoom in here. We are not looking at an image, we're looking at a div with a background image applied as a style. And based on a Stack Overflow post I read, which was not a very long post, so there's probably some more reasoning and study behind this. But let's say, you know, we need to display possibly dozens or hundreds of images, assets. Well, that can get a bit heavy on the client side performance, actually having to render um, full resolution images within the site itself is just a little, it's a lot for a client to handle. I mean, most modern computers could probably handle it, but for the sake of performance, the idea here is that we'll have kind of thumbnails, which are just div representations of the image, and I'm hoping to implement the ability to click on the image and expand it. So we'll see how that'll work out. In any case, we have our thumbnail here. This thumbnail can be, or this image can be deleted. So I do have this little delete button here, and this actually deletes it straight from the server. It hits a delete endpoint. So it is a capable system. There, let's go ahead and upload. Ooh, might have a bug here. What happened there? It should have re-rendered. In any case, so it goes. Okay, let's look at the code itself. So I'm going for a more page based like componentized system. Again, like thinking with my experience in the past with React. I haven't done web development, like actual development, in quite a while. Although I've been working in the web development space for years, I have not been building like front and back ends. I've been doing, well, I have been, just in a very different way than this. In any case, we I have implemented, again, kind of like a re-rendering type idea here with the swap page function. So like React, we have a root node, and I clear that root node, I reset it. This is always maintained in the site. So you'll see like event delegation kind of spread throughout here, where I attach listeners to the actual root of the page itself, so we don't actually clear anything. As we swap pages, we're re-rendering things. We're adding a new version of the thing, and so we do clear some, say, like some listeners and whatnot when that occurs, and attaching listeners to the root node would help us avoid that. So every page gets the header, and then we actually swap in the page here. So let's go to a page. Here's just the home page, very simple. And I want to make sure I'm showing the right screen. I am showing the right screen. Okay. So we return an actual HTML element, and we append that element. So here's our images page, what we were just looking at. You can see event delegation here. This might not be the smartest way to do it, but none of this is about being like the most clever and like implementing things in the smartest way. It's about building something and learning. And when you build and you learn, you tend to not implement things in the best way possible. It happens. But we should be fairly fine. Again, we're not vibe coding anything. And at some point, I want to implement like an authentication system, possibly. So, if I do host this publicly, people won't actually be allowed to upload anything to the site for very obvious reasons. So, when it comes to authentication, we're not going to roll our own auth. I'm going to take some time to read about authentication and implement it in a way that's not vibe coded, again, for obvious reasons. Okay, so anyway, these pages are made up of various different components. Here's the thumbnail, for example. Here's the image uploader, and so on. What else do we have? We have kind of an observer pattern. I don't know how well this is actually working, or if it's really required, but that's kind of what we have right now. And the idea behind this is when we click the upload button, I send out more or less. This is basically like state, right? So I send up an action. I say, we set image uploaded to true, and should that be true, we re-render the page. Obviously, I failed to do so for some reason. So I'm going to clear that state, and we can debug that in just a second. We have the connections file, which is all of the connections to the server, with the general kind of post resource setup here. Now I do need to abstract some of this, like here, the the delete functionality. But again, for now, you know, it's fine. I'm also uploading a lot of this to Git, so it will be available at some point. Okay, let's see if we can't repro that bug. So, what did I do here? I uploaded JavaScript, and then I uploaded. Oh, of course, I don't see it now. Let's. Oh, I accidentally typed something over here. Alright. Let's delete these. Okay. See if we can't reproduce this. It might be intermittent. Dang. I don't know. His dog. Seems to be working now. But of course, right? Oh, I don't know. Um, you know what I do need to do? And I do have a. It was supposed to be a Trello board, but I think they pulled a fast one on me and made me use Jira. Maybe they're like sunsetting Trello. Jira's just having a lot of experience with Jira. I'm not the biggest fan. But, so we want to show the most recent one. Not just like any, you know? So, because they're very much showing in any order, and we want to actually use the order in which stuff is uploaded. Okay. Uh, Also, I've got some tea. It is loose leaf chamomile. Give it a try. A little weak. A little weak. Still good though. I once had someone tell me they don't understand herbal teas, to which I asked, what is there not to understand? Tea is what? Typically, some sort. I mean, there is the tea leaf, right? So I guess if you're fundamentalist about it, so to speak, uh, you would say, oh, tea is only tea when it's made with the tea leaf, which is feels a bit like champagne is only champagne when so on and so forth. I would argue that tea has a wider definition. Tea, I would imagine, is something meant for consumption that you steep in water. But that would include coffee. I guess it's hard to define tea. But fundamentalists would lead you to believe that tea is only one thing. I think tea is many things. But if it gets too wide, then you could say like a dirty puddle in a parking lot is tea because there's something in water that has been steeped. But it's not for consumption. Oh, whatever. Why am I going on a tea tangent? Uh, in any case, yes, I want to categorize resources by date. Okay, so what I was actually wanting to kind of work on here is. Oh, well, I guess we've done that. We've done that. I want to add the ability to view an image, and that means clicking on it and having it like enlarge. Let's see if we can't do that. So I have the basis for it here. Yeah, okay. Const image equals what? Ah, yes. There we go. Dot source. Oops. There we go. I think that's about all we need. But we need to swap it in. So, likely on the thumbnail we need an event listener. Yeah. We might not need to use delegation here, I hope. Otherwise, I need to think a little more about how I handle this. But if I attach it to the container, it'll likely just be there. So that is to say, it'll be maintained on the page, I hope. So we'll say so the URL is the representation of the actual image file itself. Oh, we'll say, oh, you know, we'll say full size image. And then we need to delete this image. So let's actually remove the original image first. Nice. Oh, we'll see if that works. Let's see. Oops. There we go. That did not work. Because of course not. Why wouldn't it? Right, but we have no actual image. Okay. Why is that? Ah, we don't return the image element. That's why. If you can see here, we create the image, right, but I never returned it. And then here in the thumbnail, I likely wasn't showing the right screen. But here in the thumbnail, there's our event listener to remove the thumbnail image and replace it with the full size. But this only works if we actually return something from it. Otherwise, it's appending undefined. So let's try this again. Ah, really? Yeah. Ah, okay. So what's going on here? We have 4 divs, but just just the delete button. Now what happens here if, oops, we console log if we console log out the actual image. Uncaught. Alright. Failed to construct image. Please use the new operator. Excuse me. Ah, I don't think we're even importing it. There we go. It might have been referencing something else. Ah, there we go. If we inspect this, that should be an actual image. It's not full size. Probably because we're applying some CSS over it. So let's give it this. We'll give it a different class name so it doesn't collide with the CSS I've given it. There we go, though. That's definitely it. Oops. There we go. Very nice. I mean, obviously we need to restrict the size of it. Which I'm not 100% sure how to do. But first, let's revert it to a thumbnail. So, should be back on code. Yes, we are. Okay. You know what we should do is pass in the thumbnail and have this retain ownership over itself. Oh, I don't think we can do that because we have to append it to the container. Maybe we pass in both the... I almost want the container logic to... Ooh, I guess it doesn't matter that much. It's just in terms of ownership. I know some like object-oriented programming nerd would tell me something right about now. Classes in JavaScript are just syntactic sugar. And that's not necessarily a reason not to use them. It's just... It's... I don't know. If it was Python, I might be using classes a bit more. And even then. Maybe if it was TypeScript, I would be using classes more. It's all syntactic sugar anyway. Whatever. I don't know what I'm even trying to prove there. Let's add the event listener here. Listener. We'll just do the opposite, right? We need to append it before we remove it. Otherwise, this will not go super well. So, well, we need to append the thumbnail before we remove the full-size image. Presumably because this is, on the full-size image as an event listener. If we delete it, no listener. So, container.append image. I wonder if by removing, we're like removing it altogether. I don't know. Let's give it a try before over engineering something we don't need to. And then remove. Okay, let's give it a go. Oop. That's not working. Let's just get a console log in there. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Hello. But we're not removing the full-size image. Why not? That should be removed. No error is thrown. So, this might be my fear here. Let's log the image or the thumbnail and see if we get HTML. So, click. We do. It's still there. It exists as a reference. So, why are we not appending the image? What's the difference between append and append child? Oh, it's negligible. One is about one can accept text, another can't. It doesn't matter, apparently. So, why are we not appending? Let's give this a good think before we use AI. So I think one of the bigger problems with AI is people don't digest what they're actually looking at because they haven't thought about it too much. It's kind of like not even trying to solve an issue by yourself, running to Stack Overflow, not reading any of the question or answer, and just copy pasting code you don't understand. You have to digest things. Okay. I got my goodbye. Can we not remove? You know, if so, we could use our observer. Oh, I don't know. I guess we could. Let's use our observer. which I don't know if I mentioned this. Maybe I did and already rambled. I'm managing state on the window. Might be smarter to swap this to the server, the API, or to build an API to actually store the state server side. But for now, whatever, Windows side or client side. So image upload, delete full, or let's say remove. Oh, let's think about this. Is the problem the fact I'm trying to remove the element that. So I add an event listener to an element, and within that listener, I try to delete the element. Is that an issue? If so, how would I use the observer if I can't attach it to an event listener? I would need to dispatch it somehow. But to dispatch it and to actually use it, it has to be event based. I could dispatch my own event. I could dispatch my own event. Um, let's look it up though. JS, can you remove an element inside of its own listener? There we go, Stack Overflow. You can pass the once option to have the listener act only once, then remove itself. Oh, remove an event listener. No, I want to remove an element. This right here is why I've been using Claude. Is because it's not. I can't seem to. I can't seem to actually like get an answer to anything anymore. Can you remove element inside of its own listener? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and give it an example. No, it's just here. We'll just sketch one. Oh, yeah. So why isn't this working? Oh, a little stretch. You would think, like staring at the code over here, you would think that this would work. We're getting the goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. So why is it still attached to the DOM? It's like it's like the event listener is only console logging and not actually. Why is that? Yeah. Remove. It should just work. Well, let's see what Claude might have to say about this. So, trying to manage screens here. So, let's see. I'm trying to I have a thumbnail. On click, I replace that thumbnail. Sometimes it also just helps. Like half the time, I'll type out a question and then just pick it up. I don't think this is one of those times, but let's see. I have a thumbnail. On click, I replace that thumbnail with a full-sized image. If the user clicks on the image, I want to replace the full-sized image with the thumbnail. However, the image remains and the thumbnail does not appear. Event bubbling, not something I've thought about in a little bit. I did deal with that quite a bit, a few months back at work. Okay, so the issue is event bubbling. When you click the full-sized image, the click event bubbles up to the container, which triggers the container's click listener again. Interesting. Ah, tricky. So what we should do here is add the event listener to the image, I guess. Oh, stop propagation. Yeah, right? That also works. Yes. Okay. Well, let's give it a go. So I added stop propagation to our event listener. Let's see if that actually made a difference. It did. Huh. That should have been obvious to me. Oh well. Oh, what's funny is that the icon swaps around. Okay. Oh well, you know, that worked. So I'm going to commit this, merge it, and then take a bit of a break. I think that is a good idea.